Welcome, everyone. My name is Elliot Eco, and tonight we're diving into another chilling tale that will have you second-guessing every shadow and sound in the dark. Before we get started, if you enjoy spine-tingling stories like this one, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe to the channel and hit that thumbs up button. It allows me to bring you even more unsettling stories from the depths of the unknown. All right, let's get into tonight's tale. This one takes us to Germany, to the infamous Black Forest. It was late one evening when a man named Lucas Mueller decided to take a drive through the Black Forest. He had heard the stories, of course. Everyone had. But like most, he dismissed them as nothing more than ghost tales meant to scare the curious. To him, the Black Forest was just another dark stretch of road, a place to clear his head and escape the mundane of everyday life. That night, the rain was coming down in sheets, and the mist hung thick in the air, cloaking the world in an almost suffocating darkness. The road twisted and turned, with only the headlights to guide his way. It was nearly empty, save for the occasional flicker of a shadow from the trees. The sound of his tires slapping against the wet road was the only thing breaking the silence. As Lucas drove deeper into the forest, something strange caught his eye. An old woman standing by the side of the road, her frail form barely visible in the heavy rain. She was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her face, and she seemed to be waiting, almost as if expecting him. Though something inside him told him to drive on, to keep going without stopping, Lucas's curiosity and sense of decency got the better of him. He pulled the car over and rolled down the window. The woman's eyes locked onto his with an intensity that unnerved him. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been waiting for hours. I need help." Against his better judgment, Lucas unlocked the passenger door and let her in. As she settled into the car, he couldn't shake the coldness that seemed to wash over him, a chill that crept into his bones. The woman didn't speak again for some time, only staring out the window, her lips moving in a soft, incoherent murmur. Lucas tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the road ahead, but the atmosphere in the car felt thick with an unnatural tension. Suddenly, the engine sputtered, and the car jerked to a stop. He cursed under his breath and tried to restart it, but the engine wouldn't catch. His eyes darted nervously between the woman and the empty road ahead. The storm was relentless now, and he had no idea what to do. That's when he heard them. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, and deliberate coming from the trees. Lucas turned to the woman, but her expression had changed. She wasn't the frail, desperate old woman he had let in. Instead, her face was twisted, her eyes wide and unblinking, locked on something in the distance. "They're coming," she whispered. "They'll take you too." Lucas's heart raced. He looked out the window and saw them. Figures emerging from the woods, their faces obscured by dark cloaks. They moved slowly, but with a purpose. The rain made it hard to see, but there was no mistaking the way they walked, their steps heavy and unyielding. Panic surged through Lucas. He threw open the door and sprinted into the woods, his feet slipping on the wet ground. Behind him, he could hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps, not just one set, but multiple, all closing in. His lungs burned as he ran blindly through the darkness, the trees now feeling like they were pressing in on him, closing him off from any escape. He wasn't sure how much time had passed, but when he tripped and fell, it felt like the end. Before he could get back to his feet, hands grabbed him, pulling him further into the forest. Strong hands. Unnatural hands. Lucas struggled, trying to break free, but it was useless. One of the figures stepped forward, his face still hidden beneath his cloak. "You shouldn't have stopped," the man growled. "You don't understand what you've done." Lucas's mind raced as they dragged him through the woods. He wanted to scream, to fight, but his body refused to obey. The cold was unbearable now, his limbs heavy, and all he could do was stumble forward, each step dragging him deeper into the darkness. And then he saw her again. The old woman stood there, but she wasn't the frail, helpless figure he had picked up. Her face had twisted into something monstrous, her eyes burning with an unnatural light. She smiled, her teeth sharp and too many for her mouth. "You helped me, Lucas," she hissed, "and now you belong to them." The figures surrounding him were no longer human. Their faces were hollow, their limbs twisted unnaturally, their movements jerky and disjointed. They were creatures born of the forest, and now they had claimed him. Lucas's screams echoed through the trees, swallowed by the endless dark. When the police found his car days later, there was no sign of him. Just footprints leading into the forest where no one dared follow. And to this day, the locals warn travelers, if you see someone by the road in the Black Forest, keep driving. You might not like who or what you end up helping.